My name is Bob Tremblay. I'm Superintendent of Schools.
I'm Ann Ludes, Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education.
And I'm Mrs. Banach, the principal of Framingham High School. So I'm happy to start. I've received some really positive feedback from students that I've actually shared out with the community. I am thinking of one example where a student emailed me to let me know that not only was she really enjoying the remote learning experience, but that it has improved her relationship with her teachers, that she's gotten to know them better and they've gotten to know her better. And that's just been a really positive experience. So I thought that was just really, really nice. And I think in times of, turmoil and uncertainty, it's always so important to hear the good news and find out, what's going well and what the students are enjoying while they're managing all of this.
That's awesome.
I'll add on to that. I've definitely been hearing a lot of stories and anecdotes from different teachers and from different principals. And this is definitely a challenge for everybody. This is not a world that any of us ever thought we would be living in. And what I am absolutely amazed by is just the resilience of both our teachers and our students, and their flexibility and willingness to adapt to this changing environment and learn all of this with us. None of our teachers ever planned on being virtual teachers, and none of our students ever thought they would be virtual students and have to learn remotely. And everybody's just been stepping up. There are definitely challenges and struggles, and it's hard. It's hard for teachers to kind of teach from home. I was in a meeting just half an hour ago, and a student or a cat walked across my screen. My cat walked across the screen, and everybody got to see my cat. And we know that that's happening for students too, that there are disruptions at home that, are kind of part of our new virtual environment, but everybody's just doing a really amazing job and trying really hard.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything new to add to that. I get the same thing. As you can probably imagine, in my role, I tend to hear from the other side. I tend to hear the voices of people who are finding that maybe we're not doing enough, and then there's a balance of people think that we're doing too much. So just trying to find that sort of balance of it. I would say our teachers are doing a tremendous job, and our kids are as well. The hard part is really making sure that that everyone's truly engaging. And how do you know that? And how do you measure that? If someone were to ask, well, is the student engaging with the teachers? And we can say, well, yeah, we have a good idea that they are, but we don't know the depth of that like you would in a classroom. So there's a lot of nuance to this, and it's in every district. I talked to superintendents really across the state and lately around the world, and we're finding that it's the same kinds of challenges. It doesn't matter the community. There's always a group of people who feel like we're doing too much, that kids just need to be free and it's not expected to be school. And there's always a group of people who feel like that we're not doing enough, and we should be doing much more and pressing forward and not losing traction. So it's in every community, even in neighboring towns to ours. So we're doing the best we can. As the points that have been made, I think that no one signed up for this. No one asked to volunteer to be, hey, can we be the first district to go remote? We're all in this, and trying to figure it out as we go.
I'll just add to that. I think all the teachers and the administration, we're really sensitive to the fact that things are changing daily in the lives of our students, and we may or may not know about personal family circumstances that could impact a student's ability to engage, whether that be financial distress that has happened suddenly because of a parent or guardian has lost their job, or a diagnosis of COVID within the family. So we're really sensitive to the personal impact of the COVID pandemic on our families, both our students and our teachers. So I think, for the first question, I think our faculty meeting is the meeting that you're probably referring to. And what's important to know is that the engagement with the faculty meeting, the attendance of the faculty is extraordinary. Our last meeting, there were 250 people on the call. So our faculty meetings are very well attended, and it's a great opportunity for me to share information that I'm receiving from the senior leaders, from our central administration, about the direction that we're going in for teaching and learning. So we talk about, each week it's different. A lot of times, especially as of late, we had been waiting for information from the governor about, the next steps in terms of remote learning after he made the announcement that we would be home, staying home for the rest of the year. So a lot of times we're waiting for some information at the state level that can inform our instruction. So there'll be meetings at the central administration, and then after those meetings, there's meetings with the principals district-wide so that we are informed about decisions that are being made and the direction of teaching and learning. So it's everything from when we first started the remote learning process and the calendars. That was a big topic of conversation at many meetings about what the calendars were, how they would be developed, the collaboration in creating those calendars, measuring student engagement, measuring how do we account for the fact that if a student is engaged regularly, but then suddenly there is no engagement, the plan to reach out to that student to make sure that that student's okay and that the family's okay. There's a lot of conversations about social and emotional supports for our students and how we're doing that remotely. So the topics are very wide, very varied. I get feedback from the teachers through the chat box because we can't have a video chat with 250 people because the system crashes. And so we have a shared Q&A where the teachers will populate questions and then we'll go through them together. Where one of the vice principals will read the question and then I'll answer the question. So we've evolved with our faculty meeting. We're getting better each time. I'm starting to record them now so I can send out an email of that meeting in the event that somebody couldn't go. So, but there's a wide range of topics around curriculum, instruction, student support, family engagement. Early on, there was a lot of conversations about community resources for our students, food resources, and so forth. So it's a great meeting that covers a lot of ground and a lot of different topics.
As far as the planning that goes into developing those calendars, the calendars, think about all the courses that are taught at the high school. If every one of those courses was included in the calendar for each department, the calendar would be 100 pages long. So we've really focused on the main classes, the core classes that most students take during their high school career. The main English classes, the traditional math and history classes. And then anything that is more specialized, like the AP classes that you talked about, or some of the electives that are in the history department, for example, and all of those classes, the teachers are just developing those plans, or the teachers, if there's more than one teacher, are developing those plans and sharing them with students individually, either through Canvas or through email, whatever method that works best for that teacher and those students. The important part to know about those calendars is that they are not broken down by course level. So, for example, Algebra 2, you won't have a different assignment for CP and ACP and honors, and that's intentional. And that I know is kind of a mind shift for a lot of us. But the purpose behind that was that you might be an ACP student, but you might want to challenge yourself a little bit harder and see what a more rigorous kind of assignment might look like, because you were thinking about taking an honors class. And so you can kind of challenge yourself and go for that highest level of rigor in terms of the course of the assignment you pick. On the flip side, you might be an honors student, but you are sharing a kitchen table with your younger siblings, and you have to help them with their assignments, and you're constantly distracted because of the things that are going on in your own home. And we didn't want you to not have access to the learning because of your home circumstances. So you have the option of maybe scaling back a little bit in terms of the amount of challenge or rigor, so that you can still stay on top of the curriculum and be learning, but maybe at a level that is more appropriate given your own personal circumstances. Now, what my ask of all students is that you choose what is the right level for you without trying to take an easy way out. If you're taking the emerging task or the mild task every time, really ask yourself, is that really the best challenge for you right now given your circumstances, or are you trying to just take a shortcut? Because we don't want people taking shortcuts. We want you to challenge yourself, but we also want to be respectful and honor the fact that you might need to scale back on certain things. So really make the decision that's right for you, but remember that what you get out of this is what you put into it right now. I also want to point out that every one of those calendars, at the bottom of the calendar in the purple row, is extra. If you want to do something fun or enriching that's in that content area, maybe you love math, maybe, and you want to do a little extra math, you can go there for something fun that's not tied to a specific course, but that is open to everybody. Or maybe you've never taken an arts class before, and maybe you want to just kind of tap into something. Even if you're not signed up for an arts class, you can open up the Fine and Performing Arts calendar and go to the enrichment section and try something out. Content is moving forward. We have opened that up. The state relaxed some of their restrictions. So teachers are teaching new content. It's also really important that students are paying attention to that as well, because the content that's being taught next year, teachers are expecting that students are trying that, so that next year they are as prepared as possible.
So we will continue on with the calendars that will be made available every week, every Monday for our students. And learning will continue in terms of, the credit, no credit, the summative rating scale that I sent out a while ago now, that is still in place in terms of making a final determination on that summative rating on a scale of 0 to 4. And then your teachers will post grades as they always have. And they will be populated into X2. Just like, shortly after the last day of school, which is the 18th. So it's the process of report cards will be similar. You will be able to view your report card once it's ready. Pass fail, that we have that process in place as well. The pass fail or pass with distinction, which I thought was really a wonderful idea that Ms. Ludes had for our students to, for kids who really engaged at a very high level in those courses that were semester 2 courses, mostly electives in many departments, a lot in technology and fine and performing arts and family and consumer science, some in history, some in science. So, so that will also, the pass with distinction will be part of a report card, which will be different. That'll be new this year. But all of that will happen at the same time as normally it would, although we don't have final exams. So that grading will be going on prior to probably the week of June 15th, which would be the last week of school. So teachers will be talking with students about engagement through the 18th, because all students need to remain engaged in learning through that date. But the activities right at the end might look a little different simply because the grading has to be done. So in one of the videos I sent out to the students a little while ago, I had made a suggestion that students set an alarm for 30 minutes for each of their classes, and then when the alarm goes off after the 30 minutes to stop and to turn that work in and then go to the next class, because it's really important that students are getting to all of their classes, the major academics and all of the electives. And so that's our expectation, is that students are engaging with all of their classes. To Ms. Ludes's point about the scaffolding of the learning activities in each subject, students, can choose the level of rigor. And again, our expectation is that students do their very best to choose a level of rigor that is aligned to what they believe they can do. But if there are times that circumstances, for whatever reason, dictate that a student might take the learning activity that is not at the highest level of rigor, then maybe that's what a student needs to do at that time if they're feeling overwhelmed, is to take advantage of that opportunity.
I would also add on, I think we're all struggling with kind of managing and the work-life balance, the school-life balance right now. I can't keep track of what day of the week it is, what time it is. It's really been, I think, a challenge for all of us, even the adults that all of us. But so I think kind of setting a schedule for yourself is super important. Set a time that you're going to get up every day, a time that you're going to go to bed every day. When are you going to work on your English assignments? Set it up and really try to build a structure for yourself, very much like a school day is. Say, this is the 30 minutes that I'm going to work on English, and I'm going to take a 15-minute break, and I'm going to do something fun for myself, or I'm going to go outside and get some fresh air, and then sit back down and engage in, the science assignment. And the work, if it becomes overwhelming, which easily can happen, especially when we're kind of isolated in our homes like this, remember you've got your teachers there and they really, really care and they want to hear from you. So if you're struggling, don't ever hesitate to reach out to the teacher and say, I need some help. I'm feeling overwhelmed. What should I do? And your teachers, will absolutely do everything that they can to help you.
That was the point I was going to add on as well, is communicating with the teacher, because there's not a lot of feedback mechanism to know if it's too much, if it's too little. And that's hard to regulate when you've never really taught in this kind of environment or learned in this environment. So that communication, those office hours, checking in, sending an email saying, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and to the points that have been made, setting that schedule and find an accountability partner, someone to hold you to that schedule, because it's really also difficult to manage that yourself. And so, for example, at my house, my family reminds me at 4 o'clock, the workday is done. Like, my daughter will come and literally close my laptop, and you need people who do that for you. Otherwise, you may choose to continue pressing forward and never give yourself a break. And that's not fair to yourself. So find an accountability partner and have that person keep you in check.
I'll just add to one thing that we have talked a lot about is that 30 minutes of remote learning is very different than 30 minutes in a classroom with your teacher and with your peers. And so that was a topic of conversation in a few of our faculty meetings and other meetings as well. So that was something that we all had to kind of grow into and grow with, because 30 minutes at home alone doing your work is very, very different in terms of doing that work together in class with your teacher and your peers and learning collaboratively. So, and we understand that, and I think we've grown with that and hopefully gotten better.
Yeah, I can lead off on this one. We don't have a lot of guidance on summer programming, and so depending on when you guys show this episode, I mean, so today is what? We're in May 14th. And so we don't have guidance yet. We expect that by the end of the week, we'll hear something from the governor about summer camps and things. And that conversation is really a driver for the summer camp conversation around, how will the economy be reopening? What will that look like for schools and summer programming? As of right now, though, I've made the decision that summer schooling will largely be remote, because one is that I think it's a bad decision to rush the return and the phasing that back when we really haven't figured out what that will look like yet, and we don't want to be necessarily the first ones to have the resurgence of more cases of COVID. And we need to really focus our energy on the return of school in the fall, and that's taking a lot of time and energy of our staff, and trying to figure out what the regulations will be and how that can actually work in a public school. I think social distancing can work in restaurants and in grocery stores and then maybe in businesses. I don't think schools are inherently designed to accommodate social distancing. from the bus to the hallways to large group gatherings like PE, or if you mentioned that one, or band or chorus. And I think we have a lot of work to do to figure out how that's going to look in the future. So for now, the summer programming will be remote. And so we'll find those opportunities for kids and teachers to engage. And then we may begin to do some sort of a soft rollout, if you will, of some in-person. And that can be done on a much smaller scale. It could be some tutoring. It could be some, maybe it's specialized services for students who are on IEPs, who require, the in-person occupational or physical therapy, things that are very difficult to do remotely. And then that will allow us to sort of begin the phasing back and then begin to widen that. So right now we're taking a more conservative approach. But again, it's May 14th, we're kind of figuring this out day by day as we go. And so that's the answer for now. I'm just concerned, frankly, that if we haven't figured quite how to make the start of school work, then how do we know how to do it in July if we don't know yet how to do it in September? And so I'm kind of working my way backwards. So everybody's concerned about that, like around the world. So just, I think people tend to forget that we're not living in isolation, that so it's not just Framingham that's out of school feeling like they're losing the competitive edge. 150 billion people, or however the number is, that are, that are in the same boat, right? So we're not going to lose our competitive advantage. I mean, we've lost some time out of school, from March till June. And I don't think that's the end of the world. I mean, we have to recover those days lost in some way. There's going to be remediation. People who didn't engage are going to have to be caught up or catch themselves up. It's going to be a lot of that. So I don't want to, give this idea that the 3 months didn't matter. But in the scheme of things and in the big picture of the world, it's a snapshot in time. And we're going to recover from that academically. So I fully expect we'll go back to school in the fall. However, I think it's going to look a lot different. I use this example a lot with 9/11, and so you guys, I don't know if are you senior? What years are you now? Are you both seniors?
I'm a junior, actually.
You're a junior.
I'm a senior.
Megan, you're a senior. So the year that you were born, September 11th, right? The world changed, and you know a little bit about that probably because you've lived through it. But for the rest of us on this call, we experienced the world changed before our eyes, literally a day. There was a time when you went to the airport and you could kiss your loved ones goodbye at the gate before they got on the plane. You didn't have to take your sneakers off or your belt off or go through. I mean, that was just it. You went to the gate and you got on the plane, and in a day, the world changed. And that was the impact of two towers in the Pentagon and multiple attacks in the United States, of course. But that wasn't a worldwide event. And it changed the world. This was a worldwide event, so it's going to change. Education for the foreseeable future has changed, and so what that will look like, that part we don't know. But I think we need to be in a place where we want to embrace it. It's not how do we get back to doing what we used to do? It shouldn't be the mindset. It should be how do we now teach and learn in a new world. And there's going to be some takeaways from all of this learning where I expect we'll come back. I also expect there's going to be, until there's a vaccination that's proven, we're going to be in a world of social distancing. We're going to be in a world of masks, of hand washing, of limited gatherings. You're going to have all those kinds of restrictions, just like you don't think twice about taking off your sneakers and your belt when you go to the airport, But in 2001, you did. It's like, what are you talking about? And now we've institutionalized the practice of safer behaviors. And I think that's what's going to happen in schools too. So I fully expect we'll be back. I don't know how that will look. I mean, I've heard some speculation about kind of an A/B schedule, like some students would come on, 1 week or the other week, or 2 days, then 3 days, and then 3 days and 2 days, whatever those combinations could be. It'll be very, very difficult to pull that off in the public education because take for example, you have the busing. It will be problematic. And keeping social distancing, but you also have many of our teachers who don't live in Framingham. So if that A day doesn't line up with if I live in Holliston and I'm a teacher, and that is the opposite, I have to be home because my child's home and they're not in school. How am I as a teacher going to be able to be there for my child and teach my class if this is my week on? It's really the same reason why the state as a whole has maintained February and April vacation. It's too difficult to jump out of that. Once you do, you're not in alignment with other communities, especially if you don't live. If everyone lived in Framingham, you could probably make the case to do something like that. So there's a lot of complications with what's being forecasted around that kind of social distancing effort. If you hear things like class sizes being limited to 12 to 15 students, I don't know how that happens in our district. It could happen in districts that maybe are smaller, that have more space, declining enrollment, but it requires more teachers to do that. If you have smaller classes, you're going to have more teaching. And who's paying that in a recession type economy? So there's a lot of variables there, but the short answer is I fully expect to be back to school in the fall. The governor initially wanted us to go back in June. That closure to the end of the year required some effort on the part of some, and I think he decided not to for fear of the questions that we don't have answered, and for the concerns of teachers who are caring for loved ones at home who have been afflicted by this. So, but I do think that we'll hear something soon about the start of school, and we're planning fully to come back to school in the fall.
I have many hopes and wishes and expectations for our students while they're at home. But first and foremost, I want our students to be well. I want them to be happy. I want them to have peace of mind with all that they're going through right now. For high school students not to be able to be with their friends physically and engage and enjoy the relationships, that is really hard. And we know that and are very sensitive to how that feels. And being, cooped up at home for the most part is extremely hard for everyone. But I think it's particularly hard for teenagers who spend a lot of time together, whether it's in school or outside of school, but in groups, talking and laughing and learning from each other and just being together, and to have that, abruptly end is very, very difficult. So I want to put that out there, that the wellness and peace of mind of our students is really of the utmost importance to me. From a student engagement standpoint, I really want students to be engaged every day because it's important. Learning's important, and under these current circumstances, this is how you can connect with each other. This is how our students can still be together, and then, of course, be with their teachers in a learning environment. So it brings that unity back, that sense of unity back to the class and back to the learning, and it's the best we have right now. But it does serve the social and emotional wellness of our students. So that's something that I really value and ask all of our students to please engage every day. Not more for the social and emotional aspects of that, for the academic aspects of that, and especially so that that sense of isolation or loneliness that can happen because of all this is minimized.
I would say I agree with everything that Mrs. Banach said, but what I'm going to focus on is the perspective of, while the learning of the content of the courses that are on your schedule are super important, and they are, you're also learning some other skills that we just wouldn't be able to build into any curriculum at all. And you're learning them because we're all being forced to pause and think about them. We're learning to really appreciate those people that are our essential workers and that are really keeping our world functioning for us and really taking care of us in so many different ways. And I think that that's incredibly important. And I think that this is an opportunity for all of us to really re-engage with those that are closest to us and focus on those relationships as well. And so while all of this other stuff is happening, remember that you're learning some valuable skills that in a regular environment, maybe we wouldn't be paying as close attention to. And that in and of itself is going to create a generation of students who are going to become the leaders of this world, who have a very valuable perspective that people didn't have before now. And I think that in and of itself should be treasured. I also would agree with Mrs. Banach that right now, the most important thing is to take care of yourselves and make sure that if you are struggling, if you need any help, that you ask for it. The folks at your school have so many resources that they can connect you to if you need them, or if your family needs them, or if you just need to talk to somebody. There are a lot of people that can help. So please make sure you're taking care of yourself and you reach out if you need help.
I'm not sure much more I could add to that, except to say, the points that have been made are really important. And the social, the school experience is such a social experience. There are those kids that are driven by the schoolwork, there's no question. But most of us enjoy going to work every day or going to school every day because of the people that we're surrounded by, not so much the thing that we're doing every day. And those relationships are what sort of ignite the fun. You have fun. You have fun in class because you're engaging in class with the teacher, with your friends, and that's a miss right now. There's a real level of, distancing. Like it's not accomplished through this. You don't have those dimensions of being in a room and the energy of a room. That's a missed experience right now. My heart goes out to the kids, like as Ms. Banach has pointed out, because you guys are such social beings. There are people who are loving this environment, people who prefer to be at home and not out in public and not social. This is great. This is like a dream come true. But for some of the social butterflies like myself, this is a little bit of a challenge. So I can imagine what it's going through for you guys, particularly the senior class. I have a senior at my house, and this is a rough year for him. Not only knowing that he can't see his friends and these typical rites of passage that happen in your senior year, but also not really knowing the future of what's going to happen with colleges in the fall and how that's going to look. And so that's not the right feeling for a senior to have, as Megan, as you well know. That's not the kind of feeling that we haven't had that in 100 years. So you get to be that class to experience something that no one in a generation has experienced. So congratulations on that. But you'll be the stronger. You'll come out of this much stronger, and you'll know a lot more about yourself, and you'll gravitate back. It's interesting to think when you're back, when the world is in back to whatever the new normal is, who's the first friend you're going to hang out with? You probably have thought about that because it's the people that you are taking the time to chat with, and it's changed. Who you maybe find value in your life. Like, who cares? You find out who matters. You find out a lot about yourself, what patterns you fall. I've come to learn my own sleep pattern. I've come to learn when I go to bed and when I get up and how much sleep I need. I've never in my life diagnosed that. There's never been an opportunity to figure that out, And it's just there's a lot of self-reflection opportunity, chances to learn new things that have been pointed out. So try to embrace it. We're going to be back in the rat race in a minute. In the big context of life, enjoy the time to be with your family and reflect, and know that you're going to have the kids are going to have a great opportunity ahead to get together again and enjoy life and be social. So enjoy the reflection, enjoy the introspective moment. You really don't get a permission to do that in life.